go. Your harness has been completed. So 1UZ VVT always requires quite a few connectors to be replaced. Generally, all of the coil connectors and your injector connectors, generally all of them always need to be replaced. All of these, they end up getting brittle and hard and whatnot. Okay, so we've gone through the harness. Whatever needed to be replaced, we have replaced. Everything, as you can see, has been wrapped up with a fabric tape. This is a high quality fabric tape. You should have years of no nonsense with this harness at all. You can see over here, we've got this additional connector that we add in. So this is for your temperature gauge for your dashboard. If you have a look just under your EFI water temp sensor, let me just get that out of the way. There's a little stopper plug. I don't know if you can see it there. It's right underneath there. You can screw that out and then screw in a water temp sensor from Toyota. Okay, and then this is obviously an original Toyota connector. Okay, so it's got a proper seal in there, and you're not going to have any corrosion on the connection and so on and so forth. So yeah, you got your EFI water temp sensor that's been replaced. All of your injector connectors on this side, as well as all your coil connectors, have been replaced. 2-pin connector for your variable intake length, that has been replaced, as well as your post VVTi cam sensors connectors. They've also been replaced. Running down here, it splits off and it goes to your airflow meter connector, and another split off goes to your alternator, and then it runs down and it goes to your right hand O2 sensor. Obviously this, it goes up there. Okay, so just make sure that's secured properly. Okay, you don't want it dangling around. And then running around here, you've got an earth strap on the right hand bank and on the left hand bank. So you've got one on both cylinder heads. Okay, make sure that those are properly grounded. If you have painted your heads or anything like that, just make sure that they are clean of paint so that you've got a proper ground. Another advisable thing to do is to actually take a ground from this bolt to your firewall on both heads. I know it sounds extraordinary because there's so many head bolts holding it down. Toyota does do it for a reason, and I've actually seen some management systems misbehave when they do not have that applied. Okay. Left hand side of the harness, you've got your left hand O2 sensor, which runs on the back of the motor on the left side. Okay, so make sure that's in. This red wire is your main power supply for your management system. That goes directly to your battery. Okay, it's the main power supply. This side very much the same as the other side. I mean, literally exactly the same. Okay, the only addition here is you've got this filter basically. And that just gets rid of noise, for your car radio. Okay, so get rid of that ignition noise, that's, that squeaking noise that you get through the speakers. Okay. Again, this side, your VVTi connector or your actuator connector has been replaced. Every connector that has been replaced on the system, you'll find on your invoice. Okay. Your motor actually hasn't been invoiced as of yet. We'll probably upload all of that information for you to the folder, either in the course of this evening or tomorrow. Okay. Running down here, your pre-VVTi cam sensor, okay, carries on running down, and you've got a split off. It goes to your aircon compressor, carries on running down, goes to your crank position sensor, and then you've got a tee-off here that gets plugged into your oil pressure switch. Okay, this system is done in a way that it runs on a low oil pressure protection, okay, as we refer to it. So we're basically controlling your fuel pump through your crank signal as a priming, and then we've got your oil pressure sender that holds your pump on, okay, so long as there's oil pressure. So if you do lose oil pressure, what it'll do is it'll actually cut your pump out and hopefully save your motor. Okay, so yeah, manual application. All of your transmission stuff has been removed. You will have DTC codes for the transmission. It will not affect the running of the motor. We've wired it in a way, so what happens is if you don't tell the computer that it's in a gear, it thinks that you're basically revving it in a parking lot, and what it'll do is it'll limit your RPM, and it will cut cut back. It'll make basically like a limp mode to protect itself. Okay, so that has been bypassed, so it will run perfectly correctly, when you're driving. Okay. Running down here, you got a split off. It goes to your fuse box. Okay, so in your fuse box you have, let's get that lid off for you. You got all your fuses, okay, you've got an engine light down there, and you've got an earth terminal, right? That earth terminal we put in as a standard on every vehicle or every fuse box. You can use that as a check if you test light or whatever to check any of your fuses if you do ever have a problem. I seriously doubt that you will. Most problems are where people don't secure their O2 sensor wiring and stuff like that, and it gets burnt on the exhaust or that kind of thing. So just careful of those wires, because it is close to the manifolds. Start relay, you've got your fuel control relays. So the one is obviously controlled crank signal, and the other one's controlled via your oil pressure. And then you've got your EFI and your main relays. All of that info is documented on the bottom of your fuse box lid. Okay, if you ever do need that in the future. But yeah, you should have no problem at all. Let me just get that lid back on. Okay, running down here, you've obviously got your grommet that goes through your firewall. You've got a bridge connector over there. That's just a main ground bridging. Okay, so just leave that. It's a sealed unit. Just leave it as it is. Okay, and then you've got your ECU. The only two wires that you are going to be concerned with here is these two. Okay, so the one goes to your client plug. It's a 10-pin connector. We supply you a pigtail that plugs into that, and on there you're going to find your ignition, your start, your fuel, rev counter, temperature gauge, oil light, and charge light. Okay, and then obviously on yours you've also got your aircon compressor trigger. Okay. The second one is a 4-pin connector that plugs into a patch harness that we supply you. That'll be long enough to go to the driver's side of the vehicle. Okay, and on the end of that is basically that. You've got a OBD2 connector. We've actually got our interface plugged in here currently. So yeah, it's just a basic OBD2 connector. You can plug in your devices in there and read live data, as well as any DTCs, trouble codes. You can clear them and so on and so forth. Okay, so I'm going to leave that plugged in because we're going to do a test run, and then we will also do a scan on codes. Okay, so that I can show you exactly what's going on as far as that goes. Let me get the air intake pipe put on here, and then I shall return shortly. So I've got the air intake pipe. This is the original air intake pipe. I don't know if you're using a system like that. A lot of guys use a aftermarket one. If you do have an aftermarket one, make sure that you've got a nub that comes out of there. That nub is very important. It's part of the ventilation, crankcase ventilation system. So that needs to be connected to your valve cover. There's a tube coming out of your right-hand valve cover over there. Make sure that that is connected. The air that gets pulled through that tube needs to be calculated by the airflow meter. Okay, and then there's your airflow meter. Make sure that your airflow meter is connected in the right way round. You'll see on the one side it's got like a star. That star needs to face the air filter. Okay, if you do have it the wrong way around, the ECU is going to think there's no air going into the engine, and therefore it'll cut your fuel and it will not start. Okay, well, it'll start and then die. Okay, so that is something to take into consideration. These airflow housings, we do produce these, so we do a square one like this. That's for the guys that want to do a bolt air box. Okay, we also produce another one that has a round flange on either side. I don't know if you'd be interested in anything like that. If you are, then let us know. And if you are putting on a cone filter or whatever, we can produce that at whatever size you like. So obviously this side would be the equivalent to original. Okay, but this side we can obviously change to suit your cone filter. Okay, you'd obviously just need to give us those dimensions. But yeah, that there is basically it. Let me give her a run, and then we'll do a DTC scan. She may take a little bit of time to start because I don't think I've got fuel pressure in there. So there's no fuel pressure, so she's probably going to crank for a little bit before she runs. it's going to come out with some codes because obviously the transmission is not being read. And you can see vehicle speed sensor, shift. Okay. So those are all standard codes. These are nothing for you to worry about. They're not going to affect the running of the engine. You can get rid of them. I don't find it worthwhile because it doesn't do anything. Okay. Let me just switch this off. So yeah, like I said, those codes don't do anything as far as what the actual running of the motor goes. Obviously anything else that goes wrong on the engine will be shown up in DTCs, okay, and then that would obviously give you a clue if there is something wrong, a sensor or whatever the case might be. But yeah, let me know what you think, and yeah, you should be all good to go. If you've got any troubles, you just let us know. If you need any technical advice, if you need, yeah, just anything at all, just give us a shout. We're there for you.